Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Yates from the Westtown School, and today I'm talking with Mimi Yin. Mimi, thank you so much for being here. It's really quite an honor. I'm curious, what's your recipe?
So I've been working over the summer with a bunch of colleagues from NYU on kind of, I guess, like quick little party games that you can play on Zoom with your students. They're almost like little mixer type things.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to quickly go over them because there's like a whole bunch.
Sounds great.
So so the first one is called Say My Name, and the idea, I'm just going to screen share so that we
Mhm.
can. Oh, oops, I can't actually screen share. It's disabled. I'll just
Oh,
skip over it. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. Basically what you do is you have everybody enter Zoom with their video off and their mic off. So all you see are a bunch of rectangles with people's names on them. And actually in Zoom, you can actually rename yourself uh, like all the time. You can be constantly changing your name. And the idea is to try to sustain as long a conversation as you can by just changing your name at whatever rate you want to. And this works better with at least 3 people. Um, and it's interesting because it's different from a chat where people kind of take turns, because one person can just say one thing and kind of leave it there for 5 minutes. And it's sort of something that doesn't leave the conversation ever. The second exercise that we've been doing is a mirroring exercise, where this works better with at least like 4 or 5 people, but also works really great with like 10 to 20 people. And you're all in gallery view, and you basically pick a person at random to start mirroring. So you do as close as possible exactly what they're doing, right? And the more people there are, it kind of gets harder to know exactly who's copying you and who you're copying. And are you copying someone who's copying you? And so are you really copying yourself? So it's a little bit of an exercise in self-awareness and awareness of other people being aware of you. Uh, the third exercise is sort of uh, a spin-off of that, which is playing with the idea that in Zoom, you can't, unlike in person, you can't ever tell that somebody's looking at you, because to really look at somebody, to really make them feel like you are looking at them, you have to look at the camera, at
Mhm.
which point you can't really see the people in Zoom. Um, so the idea behind this exercise is to pick somebody, again at random, and try to make eye contact with them. And when you somehow feel like maybe they're making eye contact with you, which it's impossible to actually know that, you private text them, you private chat them something complimentary, like,
Hmm.
"You're so smart." "You're so funny. You're so beautiful." And it's a little bit of a game in reciprocation, and sort of what that sort of process is, and how it's kind of broken in these scenarios where people lose that sort of physical feedback loop.
Hmm.
Um, the fourth exercise, this sort of gets increasingly intense. The fourth exercise is called monologues. Um, and we've tried different variations where the person talking dims their screen, so they're talking into a void,
Hmm.
or the people listening dim their screen, so all that they hear, they kind of know that the person is there talking, but they only hear their voice. And the tricky part about this is that the person who's talking, who has a sort of the monologue role, needs to be responding to something that's not easy for them to make a joke about, and kind
Hmm.
of say something clever and have a pass. So the way that we've dealt with that is, first you have to talk for at least 3 minutes, because you sort of run out of like clever and cute things to say after 3 minutes, and the truth somehow starts tumbling out. And secondly, the question has to be about something sort of sacred to
Hmm.
you that is hard for you to kind of just be haha about. So one of the questions we found to be really effective was to ask people to tell us about their mother.
Hmm.
Um, and it's one of these things where it's a pretty complex relationship that we have with our parents. And after you've sort of run out of the things that are polite to say, interesting things come out.
Hmm.
And then the last exercise is kind of a mashup of chat roulette and a confessional booth. Um, so at some point, usually like you want to wait until about 2/3 of the way through a class, or whatever experience you're doing. You sort of abruptly, randomly plop everybody into a 2-person breakout room without any warning. And the best scenario is to do it sort of in the middle of a conversation about something really meaty. And then all of a sudden they're just alone with one other person. And so the chat roulette sort of aspect of it is obviously all of a sudden you're just one-on-one with somebody that you didn't expect, but it's not the same as chat roulette because it is somebody that you're familiar with. It's not a complete stranger on the internet. It's somebody that you just spent a huge amount of time with, and now you find yourself alone with them. And that's also something you can, it's interesting when you give people 30 seconds of that. It's also
Hmm.
interesting when you give people 5 minutes of that. And then the idea is like, whatever happens, there's no real directive of what you're supposed to do in the space. When you come back out, that's when you have the group conversation about what did you do with that time together alone? And sort of how that conversation evolves is sort of the interesting bit.
Oh,
So that's what we've been working on.
wow. I love those. They strike me as almost being little experiments as well.
Yes, they're friendly psychology experiments. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for those, Mimi. They're really fascinating, and definitely I could see them being applied in the classroom in so many different ways and yielding so many different results. So thank you for taking the time to share these recipes and your expertise. And I wish you well and all the best in these times.
Same here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mimi.
Take care.